A young Pakistani man, after his wife passed away, secretly placed a mobile phone in her grave during the burial. When he called that phone, it was answered, holding on to the hope that his beloved wife was still alive underground. He went back late at night to dig up the grave. What he uncovered was so shocking it would shake your heart and soul. Dear viewers, this is the true story of a Pakistani man named Adil. The Pakistan Intelligence Police conducted a thorough investigation for over a week, unveiling the mystery of this incident. Today, I'm going to read out the entire story straight from the victim Adil's own statement. Adil says, "I had only been married for 3 months when I received the heartbreaking news of my wife's death. I just couldn't accept it. She loved me so much, and I hadn't even fully expressed my love for her yet. My beloved wife left this world so soon. I didn't hold back in trying to show her all the love she wanted. I did everything just the way she wished. I wanted to, but life has given me so much pain, sorrow, and hurt that my wife left me in the prime of our life together. Right after my wife passed away, the real trouble began. That event didn't just break me mentally. It also revealed the true nature of many relationships in front of me. Many of my close relatives showed their real colors. As soon as the bad news of my wife's death spread, her family came to my house. My mother-in-law, that is, my wife's mom, started trying to convince me in all sorts of ways. You started saying that you killed my daughter. She was so happy at the time of her wedding. She told me that only her dead body would come out of this house. But you really tortured her so badly that you took her to the doorstep of death. Let me make it clear, my wife died at my in-laws' place. Still, my mother-in-law is saying that we tortured her so much at our home that she went back to her own house dead inside and then died. My mother-in-law was yelling at me, asking if I don't feel any shame at all. No, you definitely have been very cruel to my daughter. She never told me anything. She kept all her pain and suffering to herself and died quietly. Meanwhile, I've been thinking that even though the marriage has only been 20 days, I still haven't really built much of a relationship with my wife. We've had good conversations and gotten along well, but we haven't been close yet. So when did I ever mistreat her?" Adil honestly admits, though it's embarrassing to say, that even though he wanted to, he never physically got close to his wife even once. We couldn't get close because my wife was so shy that whenever I tried to be intimate, she'd just turn her face away out of embarrassment. But she never acted like she disliked or hated me. In fact, her behavior showed she probably loved me a lot. So we kept playing this hide-and-seek game like cat and mouse, and rainy days passed by. Then one day, her father came and took her back home, and just 2 days later, I heard she had passed away. I was lost in my thoughts about everything, and meanwhile, my mother-in-law was loudly shouting in our house, blaming me for every injustice and cruelty done to her daughter. "You have to pay for this. You've tortured my daughter a lot." On top of that, something even bigger happened that caused me even more trouble. My wife's family started saying that our daughter's dead body should be buried at their house. But my parents kept telling them, "Look, Ms. Bayin, she's not your daughter-in-law, she's ours. Even if she died at your place, her burial and funeral should happen at our home. That's what Sharia law says." But her mother didn't agree. She spoke harshly, saying, "You've already finished her off, and now you want to take the body too? We were going to bury her right here." But even among my wife's family, one person came up to me and started cursing me fiercely in the local dialect. In the end, he said that under no circumstances could they hand over our daughter's body to us. I was mentally shattered. Honestly, I couldn't forget her face, her smile, nothing. So, no matter where her funeral and burial took place, it was my responsibility to stay with her. That's why I stayed at their house with my wife's dead body. I faced a lot of trouble while burying my wife. I was in such a state that when I went to bury my wife, my whole body started trembling. Thoughts of my own death began to flood my mind. I wanted to leave this world along with her, but it just wasn't possible for me. Suddenly, someone pushed me from behind. I turned around and saw the man standing there, the same guy who had just been cursing me harshly a little while ago. He said, "Hey brother, are you seriously thinking of lying down in the grave with your wife too? hurry up and get out of the grave. This guy was acting really weird and hateful, so I got out of the grave and stepped back a bit. Then the grave was quickly covered with soil. After that, the man started telling everyone that no Islamic rituals or prayers would be allowed in this grave anymore, and everyone should just go back to their homes. Then he turned to me and said, "Hey Mia, are you going to keep mourning your wife like this and leave this world too? Go back to your house now, stop all this drama. Your daughter's life is over. Now it's your turn. Go and find a new wife, that's your job after all." Hearing that guy's bitter and harsh words really hurt me, but there was nothing I could do. That time was so sensitive. My heart was so heavy that I couldn't say anything. I quietly went back to my room. After I got home, I felt awful, like my heart was bleeding. That's when I decided to call a friend. But when I reached into my pocket for my phone, I realized it wasn't there. Felt like the ground was slipping from under me. I went into a panic because all my wife's last memories were on that phone. Nowhere else. You know, those pictures we took sitting side by side, her smiling face. I was tearing at my hair in pain and grief, feeling like I couldn't protect those memories. I kept telling myself how unlucky I was for not being able to keep my wife's last memories. Then suddenly I remembered, when I was coming back from the cemetery, my pocket felt really light. But I was so distracted back then, I didn't notice the difference. Now I realize what happened. Actually, I realized I left my phone somewhere in the cemetery. I quickly rushed out of the house because these days, life without a phone is just unimaginable. I headed towards the cemetery and went straight to the spot where my wife was buried. Once I got there, I looked all around, but I couldn't find my phone anywhere. I started searching here and there when suddenly, an old man began walking towards me. He came up and asked, "Hey kid, what are you looking for?" "Maybe the uncle who digs graves here." I told him, "Uncle, I think I might have dropped my mobile phone somewhere around here. That's why I'm looking." The old man looked really worried and asked, "You didn't drop your phone inside the grave, did you?" I said, "Oh, that could be it. Actually, when someone was helping me up from the grave, I kept leaning in to look inside. Then someone pulled me back from behind by the hand, and I think that's when my phone fell inside the grave." Thinking about that, I got really worried. So what about my phone? Looks like Uncle fell inside this grave. I think it'd be best if we come back at night, dig it up, and grab the phone. Hearing me, Uncle covered his ears and said, "Repent, man. What are you saying? Just for a little phone, you want to break such a big rule of Allah? A grave is Allah's boundary. It's called Alam-e-Barzakh, meaning a hidden world behind a veil. Allah himself has covered that world with a curtain. Don't try to tear that veil down. Watch out if you try to dig up this grave. So, your wife's family will all come here, and if they find out, they won't spare you. Don't you dare say a word about this. They're already preparing a case for domestic abuse, but we, the elders, have talked to them and kept them quiet. But if you try to do something like that, no doubt they'll assume you've been abusing your wife a lot." Hearing this guy, I got really worried. I started wondering how he knows about my family problems. He's just a gravedigger uncle, so how does he know all this about the city? In rural areas, there's this thing because when you talk about one house, it's actually about the whole village, sometimes spreading across 10 villages. But in the city, people's personal matters stay between themselves. Hardly anyone around knows about them. Anyway, I kept quiet and left feeling really down. My mom comforted me and gave me some money, saying, "Go buy a new phone." I cried and said, "Mom, it's not that I'm obsessed with the phone. All the memories between me and my wife were in that phone. But in the end, I took the money and bought a new phone, just to please my mom." I came home with a new mobile phone and was just sitting quietly, but my mind kept wandering to thoughts about my wife. Suddenly, it struck me, what if I called my old phone? Around midnight, my new phone's SIM card had already been activated. Even though I couldn't get any network for a while, suddenly the signal came through. So, from my new phone, I dialed my old number for the first time. I did it just to check the signal on my phone. I wasn't thinking anything else, at least not openly. I thought since my phone had fallen inside the grave, the battery must have died by now and the phone would be off because it wasn't charged much. But the moment I called my old number, I heard the ringtone on the other end. Hearing that dial tone sent chills down my spine because that phone was buried with my wife's body in the grave. A strange kind of fear started creeping in. I kept thinking, my phone is inside the grave, yet it's ringing. But what happened next completely stunned me. My phone rang, and I got so annoyed and stressed that I just stood up right away. Seeing my weird behavior, my mom was surprised and asked why I was acting so strange. I replied, "Mom, I'm going to my wife's grave." She asked, "What's wrong with you? First you said you were going to look for your phone, and now suddenly you're saying you're heading to your wife's grave this late at night." I said, "Mom, I have to go." Saying that, I rushed out of the house, not realizing how worried my mom was behind me. At that moment, all I could think about was my wife. I was really anxious because from what I heard over the phone, I just couldn't stay quiet. It was my responsibility to get to the bottom of what happened, so I quickly went to my wife's grave. But as soon as I stepped into the cemetery, I ran into that gravekeeper uncle. He told me again, "You're really getting on my nerves." Then, in a very angry tone, he warned me, "Look, don't try to stir up any trouble. If I wanted, I could inform the locals." But somehow I couldn't control my temper. I said in a very angry voice, "Uncle, is your job to dig graves or what? Just stay out of it. Why do you keep poking your nose into my business and asking me so many questions? You keep wanting to know why I come here again and again." He said, "Hey man, don't get mad. I'm just asking out of concern. You don't know anything about this graveyard. I'm the gravedigger here, so if anything happens, I'm the one responsible. That's why I'm asking. If there's any problem with what I'm doing, you can tell me openly, and I'll try to fix it." Then I explained everything to my uncle, who's a cattle trader. As soon as he heard it, his face changed color. He said, "Son, I don't know anything about this, but I will tell you one thing for sure. This matter isn't about your wife or her grave. You should go ask your wife's family about this situation. Maybe then you'll understand a lot more on your own. Look, we're simple people, and sometimes we have to pretend we don't see things even when we do." Hearing all this, my head started spinning. I quickly went to my in-laws' house and saw everyone having a big meeting. They were all talking about my wife, but instead of showing concern, they were showing anger. I stood quietly beside them. Suddenly, I accidentally bumped into the wall and broke a showpiece hanging there. Everyone's eyes turned to me. They asked, "Hey, kid, when did you get here and what are you doing here?" My mother-in-law started questioning me. "What's going on, son? Why did you come?" Hearing the tone in her voice, I was shocked. I spoke up a bit firmly. "Auntie, I came to tell you something." Hearing this, my mother-in-law seemed to swallow hard. I looked at her with hopeful eyes. Then she said, Come, I'll listen to everything you have to say. I've been waiting just for you." I was surprised and asked her, "You were waiting for me? But you said you were going to take legal action against me." She then started explaining, "You know how things are. We're just a simple family. Since yesterday, one of my nephews hasn't come home. Suddenly, she disappeared in such a way that my sister got really worried. Please, can you help find her?" I felt like I'd fallen from the sky. I came to ask about my wife, and on top of that, one of their daughters at home had died. They don't seem to care about that girl at all. Instead, they're stressed about losing another niece. I can hardly believe it. Everything about this family is so mysterious. My mother-in-law started explaining to me, "Look, my sister's only son. If he's not around, his mother can't survive. You know that. We've had issues with them for a long time, but after this incident, our two families came back together." Hearing that, I assured him, "All right, I'll find your sister's son." But when I got home, I just couldn't sit quietly. I wanted to dig up my wife's grave again. I wanted to re-examine her grave because of what I had heard. Since then, I couldn't find any peace of mind. I really wanted to dig up my wife's grave again, late at night. Around 2 o'clock, I decided to go to the graveyard because I felt like I couldn't go on living in this world without digging up my wife's grave and seeing it for myself. I was sure that at 2 in the morning, even that creepy old man from the graveyard wouldn't bother me. Honestly, no one's really awake at 2 a.m. Everyone's asleep. I kept thinking to myself, after such a big event, how could I just sit quietly? So, I got everything ready and started digging up my wife's grave around 2:30. I wasn't surprised when the grave soil felt really soft, like it had just been covered up a little while ago. I quickly brushed the dirt off the grave, but it took me no more than 5 minutes to lift the bamboo slabs. I was so pumped up and rushing at that moment, I bet I could have even moved mountains. But the moment I moved the bamboo slabs, I got hit with another huge shock. Seeing what was in front of me, my chest started trembling and sweat broke out on my face. I was so freaked out that I had no idea what to do because what I saw was the grave. There was absolutely nothing in the empty grave. No shroud on my wife's body, not even my phone. I had actually come looking for my phone, but now a whole new story was unfolding right in front of me. When I called my number, someone answered, which made me think my phone wasn't buried in the grave. Maybe someone had stolen it. But a little while later, when I heard the next words from the other side, I started to get suspicious because there was a faint sound of air being sucked in from the other end. And then, I heard another voice in my ear. Someone was saying that my wife is suffering a lot in her grave, and if I quickly pay off her debts, she will find peace in the grave. Until those debts are cleared, she will keep suffering. If I were really gullible, I would have gone crazy hearing this and rushed to pay off all her debts. But then I thought, angels who come to graves never speak in the mother tongue. I've heard they speak Arabic. Besides, how is it possible that an angel... He answered my call and started giving me a statement about the torment in my wife's grave. But to me, the whole thing seemed like a made-up story or a stage drama because that can never actually happen. Many people have tried before to test this by placing cameras or microphones inside graves. But until now, no one has ever heard the voice of an angel from their own grave. This is a secret known only to Allah, and Allah knows best about this matter. It's impossible for anyone to hear an angel's voice from inside any grave. That's why I became suspicious, and I decided to dig up the grave, and when I did, I found nothing there. Right then, I went to my wife's family and told them I had dug up their daughter's grave, but her body wasn't there. When they heard that, my in-laws got really angry with me. They accused me of stealing their daughter's body and said, "How could you do such a disgusting thing?" My wife's brother even came at me ready to almost beat me up, shouting so loudly and fiercely. I got scared, but anyway, without dragging out any arguments with the family, I quickly pulled myself together and left the house. A few miles away, I went into a mosque, prayed 2 rak'ahs, and raised my hands to Allah, crying my heart out. Alhamdulillah, Allah heard my call. The mosque's muezzin came up to me and said, "I understand your pain. Please, your mother-in-law asked you to find someone. Go to this address and look for that nephew. You'll understand everything." I said to him, "Could you please? Don't be so blunt. Who's this nephew and where did my wife's body go?" Then the muezzin said, "Look, we need to survive too. Your in-laws are really dangerous." After hearing the muezzin, my suspicions only grew stronger, because the day my mother-in-law's nephew disappeared from the house was the same day my wife died. Anyway, after asking around, I made my way to the only bus stand there. Following the muezzin's advice, I asked the people there about my mother-in-law's nephew. A local guy told me that my mother-in-law's nephew had gone to a gambling den about 5 kilometers away. He regularly gambled and used drugs there. So, I headed to that place based on the info. It wasn't really hard for me. I found him pretty easily. He lived in a rented room in a small alley near the gambling spot. After searching for a few hours without finding him, I at least got his home address. In the days after my wife passed away, feeling worn out, I stood in front of his house and knocked on the door. I stood there to knock on the door. By then, I already knew the answers to all the questions that had been building up in my mind. A few more questions popped up and I wanted to ask her those. But when I knocked and the door opened, I was shocked to see no one else but my own wife standing right there. I had come looking for someone else. The moment she saw me, her face changed color. She struggled to compose herself and started to back away. Then suddenly, she was about to run away fast. In a flash, I grabbed her hand tightly, squeezing so hard that the rings on her fingers broke and her hand started bleeding. She screamed loudly. The people around thought I was some kind of thug kidnapping a woman and were about to beat me up. Seeing my wife's bloodied hand, they aggressively came at me with sticks. They would have definitely beaten me up if my wife hadn't told them to be quiet. She begged them not to hurt me, saying, "He's my husband." Then one of the locals shoved my wife hard and said, "You! If your husband is such a rude girl, then whose family are you running? Who stays with you here every night?" Anyway, people insult a lot, so I left from there. I saw a lot of regret on my wife's face. I forcefully took her into my car and asked, "Why are you here? You were supposed to be dead." My wife started crying and said, "For God's sake, forgive me." I scolded her, "Don't even say God's name. You chose this path and upset God. Look at how much. You're living like a human being shouldn't inside this slum. There's no healthy food, no clean drinking water. This isn't a place for people to live. Why would you throw yourself into such a dark alley?" I got angry and said, "Tell me, what punishment do you think you deserve?" My wife folded her hands and started begging for forgiveness. She said, "Please listen to me first. I'll tell you everything truthfully. If you still don't believe me after that, do whatever you want to me. If you sentence me to death, I'll accept it. If needed, I'll even write it down." I calmed myself down after hearing about the suicide. When my wife started telling her story, I listened quietly. She told me that ever since she became an adult, her relatives used to come and go at their house. Among them, her aunt's son would regularly visit their home. Over time, he developed a very close relationship with my wife. One day, he told my wife that he would take her to the city to do modeling. He said she would become famous overnight and could earn a lot of money for their family. My wife agreed to leave because she was very beautiful and believed she could become a big model. Then, holding her cousin's hand, she left for another city. But once there, he took advantage of her desires, forced her into an illegal relationship, and even recorded inappropriate videos of their intimate moments. When he collected many secret videos of my wife, he started blackmailing her. My wife was forced to obey all his demands. When my mother-in-law found out about this, she schemed and took my wife away from her cousin, forcibly marrying her off to me. But my mother-in-law's cousin didn't leave my wife alone. He kept showing up at her dad's place, threatening her. My wife was scared of those videos and couldn't stop meeting him. It was actually my mother-in-law's cousin who told my wife to stay away from me. My wife was torn in two, feeling happy on one side. In our home, things used to run the way she wanted. After getting married, during the 20 days she spent with my family, she realized how much respect and dignity a decent, cultured family holds in their hearts and minds. She wanted to stay in this family, but her dark past and the fear of those recorded videos kept pulling her back. She never let anyone in on her pain and struggles. Then suddenly, one day, my wife's maternal cousin gave her a strange order. He told her, "Pretend to die, and then I'll take you away from your father's house. After that, you'll be my wife." Then my wife acted like she was dying just like she said. God knows how she did it so well. But as soon as news of my wife's death spread, all her family members came straight to my house. Maybe that's why they rushed to bury her. That troublemaker was secretly stirring them up from behind. She probably bribed them all with a lot of money to keep them in line. Now she's taken my wife to some forbidden place and turned it into a way to make money. And with that money, she's gambling and doing drugs. I've seen terrible abuse and torture happening to my wife. There were clear signs of abuse all over her head, hair, and hands. My wife lost her own family and relatives, and I didn't even have a chance to show my face to her. Because of that, she was forced to try and adjust to that dark world. Day by day, her life got buried deeper and deeper in sorrow and pain. My wife's life became worse than that of animals. I listened carefully to everything she said, and after crying, she told me, "Look, if I were in your place, even then, a girl like this, I couldn't accept being your wife, and you shouldn't expect me to either. Just let me disappear into my dark past. In just 20 days, I've earned some respect in your family. Bury me there with that respect. And if you feel even more hatred toward me, please kill me in this dark prison." No one will know. After hearing everything about my wife, I honestly told her, if even after knowing all this, I still want to accept you, then will you hold my hand and face these bad people with me? If you're ready, and you agree, I'm willing to bring you out of this darkness into the light. Remember, all the physical abuse you've suffered after marriage is equivalent to rape, and the only ones guilty are those who mentally tortured you. And if you repent for the sins you committed in the past, the great Lord can forgive you. He is very merciful. If I can forgive you, just imagine how merciful the compassionate Lord is. Hearing this, my wife started crying, and I told her, no problem. Even if people all over the world show your picture around, I won't let you be just a puppet in his hands anymore. Now, I'll see how this guy manages to escape the law. Dear viewers, Adil made these confessions on the last day of the court hearing, and after that, this whole incident caused a huge stir worldwide. Adil says, I used all my strength and connections to bring this guy under the law. I have never abandoned my wife because husbands who leave their wives in helpless moments of danger. Time leaves you all alone. They're not men, they're cowards.